Fait que le vent a tourné.
L'élection de Danielle Smith.
Well, what a weekend that was. Where do we even start? Well, I ended off Friday talking about how everybody on the left was so mad about this MOU, a thing that likely will not happen, but they're still upset about it anyway. We talked about that. Then Friday transpired. Saturday transpired. Sunday transpired. And wow. Different weekend. Not a lot typically happens, but there was a lot that took place. Danielle Smith, the UCP AGM, a lot of drama happening there. We're going to be discussing what's going on there. And then, of course, Pierre Poilievre brings down the House at the Parliamentary Press Gallery dinner. Mind you, it's the first time that a Conservative leader has attended that dinner in over 6 years. It was interesting. That on top of the fact that Stephen Guilbeault, after resigning from his cabinet position in Mark Carney's cabinet, he goes on Tout le monde en parle and whines and complains about Danielle Smith and how it's just so unfair. Life is so unfair. Crocodile tears for everybody. Oh, baby, we have a lot to get into. Happy Monday. Now let's get into it. Welcome to the Elevate Podcast. I'm your host, Josh. If you're getting value from today's episode, take the time to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us to grow. It helps us to get to new audiences. It helps people see that there is something different than what the mainstream media has to offer. And now let's get our first story, shall we? So I think it's proper. We'll go in chronological order of what happened this weekend. So Danielle Smith, doing what politicians do, especially if you're the one in charge of getting this MOU signed by the federal government. As I said, the left's upset. Alberta's upset. No one actually likes it except for Eastern boomer libs who don't understand what's going on with politics and says, oh, Mark Carney did something for Alberta. Well, they've been crying so much. Well, at least give him something. Well, that's amazing. This is great. MOU. And they don't even know what MOU stands for, likely. So that is like what we've seen. But everybody on all sides is really frustrated by this. And some people say, oh, Josh, you're over-exaggerating. I was like, I don't know. I just saw a Liberal caucus member, MP out of BC, say this is never going to happen and do a video on that. That was interesting. And then Danielle Smith gets on the stage at the UCP AGM, bragging about this MOU, talking it up. And this was the reaction from the crowd when she brought this up.
As you know, I support a strong and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. I know we might have a bit of a difference of opinion on that, but I hope people today feel a lot more confident that Canada works than they did a couple of days ago.
And the crowd goes mild. It was rough. They start booing the fact that, no, Canada doesn't work. And this is what I always find hilarious in general. You have this Eastern Canada rhetoric and narrative they spread about Danielle Smith all the time, that she's the one leading the revolt. She's the one trying to divide Canada. She's the one who's trying to get Alberta to separate from Canada, all that. She literally is the only one trying to keep Alberta as part of Canada. She's literally the only one over there trying to do that right now. Everyone else of consequence in Alberta wants independence. They are done with Canada. She's the only one just holding up a flame. But pray, hopefully, maybe something can change. And they said no. Boo. Boo is what they said. No, Canada doesn't work. This is how bad the Trudeau government and now Carney have completely done irreparable harm to the relationship between Eastern Canada and Alberta, to the point now it's like it's over. This is a very real movement in Alberta, and people are frustrated. That's what I'm saying. This MOU isn't winning anyone's any battles right now, especially the fact that it's such a half measure that actually nothing's really happening aside from, we'll talk about getting a pipeline now. BC's mad that talks are even happening. Liberal cabinet members are upset that those talks are even happening. Caucus members are upset those talks are even happening. And Alberta's like, I don't want an increase on industrial carbon price on our oil. Screw you. That's what that's where we're at. No one is happy because this was just a half measure, and it showed right here. The frustration is real. Alberta's disillusionment with Canada is very real. And until Eastern Canada wakes up and sees how bad this really is, it's only going to get worse. This was obviously the moment that stood out the most from the weekend. However, there was other moments that really were shining lights. So Danielle Smith does her closing speech at the AGM, dropping this.
Next week, our UCP government will be introducing a new motion under the Alberta Sovereignty Within a United Canada Act that will, if passed in the legislature, instruct all provincial entities, including our municipalities and law enforcement agencies, to refuse to enforce or prosecute under the federal gun seizure program. Now, the Sovereignty Act motion will also make it clear that these agencies will not enforce or prosecute Albertans defending their homes and families from intruders.
That's huge. That's huge. Bringing legislation to essentially allow people to defend themselves using their guns on their property to defend themselves against intruders. That's huge. That's never, ever been seriously addressed in Canada before. That was a big move. And people will ask the question, well, how is that even possible if the justice system is on the federal level? How can a province do that? Well, first off, you have the legislation they introduced, I think, back in 2022 of, as she mentioned here, the Sovereign Alberta in a United Canada Act that allows them to essentially dictate what laws are constitutional and unconstitutional based on Canada's constitution. And there are laws that are unconstitutional that doesn't exactly vibe with Alberta. The government can direct provincial entities to not enforce specific laws coming down from the top. And this is one of those that falls under that. Obviously, the gun seizure program on top of that. That was big news. That one got everyone's attention. And we'll see where this goes, because we all know Eastern Canada ain't going to take that one lying down. So we'll see where all that goes. However, that was a big shot across the bow. Wake up. Alberta is here, and we are not taking your crap anymore. Welcome to the party, pal. And we move on. And in that same address, we know, we've seen it over the past couple of years, how much Ottawa hates this woman. Can't stand her. She's such a thorn in their sides. Cannot stand her. And she's always been such a champ. With all the stuff that they remember, the stuff that they would say in the House of Commons about her and just be extremely disrespectful to her. We've seen, obviously, the Toronto Star put out incredibly disrespectful comics about her. And she's just taken it on the chin, stayed quiet, done her thing. But she was waiting for her moment, and she got her moment on this stage to address Stephen Guilbeault directly about him resigning from his cabinet position and saying, Alberta's real. We are going to push back, and if you come at us, it's going to cost you your job. Listen to this.
Those who had opposed us, including the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his governing partner, the former federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, along with so many others who sought Alberta's economic demise, they've seen their political careers come to an abrupt and dramatic end. Including, I would add, former Trudeau Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault. He, of course, resigned from cabinet on Thursday after the announcement of the new energy deal that repealed several of the anti-Alberta laws that he created. On behalf of all Albertans, Monsieur Guilbeault, we bid you adieu.
I love how she was like, I've been waiting for that to drop. I've been waiting to say that for a long time. See ya. And that's exactly what she did, and made sure to make a spectacle of it because, well, he deserved it. For what that Liberal Party's done to that province for the past 10 years has been, quite frankly, disgusting. Now that Alberta has someone standing up for them, it's huge. Sorry to tell you, she's doing all the things that Jason Kenney simply could not do. Danielle Smith was the answer that province has needed in a lot of ways, and people can disagree. I do not care. That's what we are currently seeing. She is feisty. She's here to fight for her constituents, wants to do what's best by Alberta, and man, people hate her for it. And it's the reality, but she was waiting for that moment, right? And after that moment, we had Mr. Stephen Guilbeault finally speak out after his resignation on Thursday on Tout le monde en parle. And this was all in French. We'll translate for you afterwards, kind of get an idea what he talked about. However, man, he was upset. He was angry. He's just beside himself, whining and crying about Danielle Smith and Alberta. They're just so unfair. He gets into it. If you were watching on YouTube, you're watching on Spotify, you will be able to see the subtitles to this. However, if you are just listening via audio, I will essentially sum up what he says afterward. Listen to this.
Alberta était le leader des investissements dans les énergies renouvelables. Qu'est-ce qui fait que le vent a tourné?
L'élection de Danielle Smith comme première ministre de l'Alberta, c'est incompréhensible. Mais pour des raisons essentiellement idéologiques, elle a mis en place un moratoire sur les énergies renouvelables en Alberta. Ça représentait des milliards de dollars d'investissement. Ils ont perdu 5 à 10 000 emplois presque du jour au lendemain. Tout ça parce qu'elle a dit, moi, je ne crois pas à ça, les énergies renouvelables, même s'il y avait beaucoup d'argent, presque... À ce moment-là, c'était plus de la moitié des investissements en énergie renouvelable qui se faisaient partout au pays, se faisaient en Alberta, dans sa province. Puis elle a dit, moi, je mets un moratoire là-dessus. C'est de la folie furieuse. Ouais. Puis nous, pour lui faire plaisir à cette dame-là qui sera jamais contente, parce que là, on a fait ça. Puis là, on se donne 2-3 mois, puis elle va dire, j'en veux plus, puis j'en veux plus. C'est pas un partenaire fiable, à mon avis, dans cette négociation.
He is so angry that he can't do his crazy Green New Deal in Alberta no longer. No one's listening because it's bankrupted our country. So he sits there. The question was asked to him. You told us at one point that Alberta was the leader in investments in renewable energy. What was the turning point? What happened? He sits there, takes a gasp, says, the election of Danielle Smith. That's what it was. It's crazy. She just operates on ideology, and that it's insane to me, which is hilarious here coming from him. And he goes on to talk about how we've invested so much money into Alberta and renewable energy, and she put a moratorium on it. It's just madness. It's madness, he says. We put so much money into that, and they lost 5,000 to 10,000 jobs overnight, he says. Well, my friend, what happened is your government subsidized an industry that wasn't making money. It was losing money. And yes, it provided jobs on government subsidy. And she says, this is ridiculous. You are choking out the thing that is actually making money. It's making real dollars in favor of government-funded jobs for something that simply isn't working. And they got upset about that. And she did what was best by Alberta, put a moratorium on renewable energy, and focused on building up the oil industry once again. And a guy like Guilbeault, who's an activist, didn't like that. And it was really funny to hear him say, it's just she operating on ideology, says the ideologue activist himself. Advocating for technology that doesn't make any money. It's hurting our economy. And now he sits there looking off into the distance, wondering what happened. And he's there, curse you, Danielle Smith. Curse you. He said it right here. Danielle Smith is the reason why he doesn't have a job anymore. That was the turning point, he said. It was Danielle Smith's election and her pushing back against Ottawa. He said that here. And honestly, God bless Danielle Smith. Put him out of a job. And so her stand up on stage at the UCP AGM and say, I bid you adieu, is the most amazing troll job of this man that you could ever ask. This man watched Jasper burn. Admitted he knew nothing about it when it was all within his jurisdiction, and likely what we believe to be just a move to push his ideology about climate change and not doing his job of cleaning dead brush in our forests of a national federal forest, which led to the ignition of an incredible forest fire that took out the beautiful town of Jasper. So yes, it's very personal for people. And seeing him gone means a lot to people because he caused a lot of damage, including Jasper. So that was interesting. Now we shift gears to the Parliamentary Press Gallery dinner. This was interesting. And so here's the thing, folks. We know the news. I know you know about the UCP AGM that happened to Danielle Smith. I'm going to bring this all together. Trust me, this is really important. Everything that's happened this weekend is very symbolic. And it's pushing back on the narratives of Ottawa, the left-wing narratives that have ruled our lives for so long. They're getting beaten back little by little, and they're getting frustrated in the process. One of which seems small, but it was a big deal. The the Parliamentary Press Gallery dinner with Pierre Poilievre. I need to paint the picture for you. I know you know what's happened, but I need to paint the picture for you. The Conservative Party has not attended this dinner in 6 years, formally. The last leader of the party to attend was Andrew Scheer. The Conservative Party essentially has not attended this on principle, saying they're not a huge fan of the press and how they treat the Conservative Party. They don't want to attend an event that praises the elites. It's just against what their values are. So it was, people kind of had their eyes like curious when the likes of Michelle Rempel-Garner showed up, when Pierre Poilievre's director of communications showed up, along with MP Michael Barrett, but no Poilievre to be seen on site. People thought that was peculiar because it's been known for a while, 6 years, that CBC just doesn't show up at this. Conservatives don't show up at these things. Why are they here? And they have a table. That seems odd, but where's their leader, man? Their leader's not going to be happy about this, man. His top MPs and his director of communications are here, but he's not. The story was already being written in that room. The division in that party is so real. Even his most trusted people are showing up, and he's not. It was already being written, folks. So when the introduction of Pierre Poilievre happened, everyone's like, okay, cool. And, you know, the introduction happens, and Chris Wilson playing Pierre Poilievre comes up on stage and does a 4-minute bit. Everyone's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is back to normal programming. Poilievre's not here, but we have the actor who's acting as Pierre Poilievre, and we're going to make fun of him, we're going to mock him, and everyone will laugh, and it'll be all good. He does a 3.5, 4-minute bit, and people are just like, yeah, okay, ha, 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 clap, this is fantastic. And that was what was expected of the night. And then the room was brought down when Pierre Poilievre showed up halfway through the bit.
That's right. Long live the CBC. Long live the CBC.
Again, you know the moment, but that is why that got a standing ovation. It was because of the history behind it. How Poilievre is known publicly to see this dinner, then members of some of his most trusted MPs and his director of communications show up at a table. Everyone's like, weird, okay. And then the bit goes on for 3 minutes, 4 minutes. You have to understand how that works. You really lulled them into a sense of security, thinking, okay, they knew what was coming next. And then he shows up, opens the doors, comes through the back. People lost their minds. That was huge. Then he goes on to do about an 8-minute stand-up routine, essentially, making fun of himself, making fun of others, doing what he needed to do. How? Because this is the thing, folks. I've been railing on this in our live streams. I've been talking about this a long time, haven't I? The way you beat this rigged system is you play. You play, you play. What do I mean? You know all the things they say about you. You know how they make fun of you. You know what they say about you in the papers. You know this hour's 22 minutes, what they do, how they make fun of you. You play into it. You accept it. And that's what Pierre Poilievre did. He made fun of himself. Doing a collaboration with Chris Wilson from this hour's 22 minutes. Huge. Accepting, knowing the joke. You're in on it with everybody now. And he goes on for more self-deprecating humor throughout that 8-minute speech. And he hit them hard with a lot of jokes at the same time. Makes jokes about Stephen Guilbeault.
But the whole thing has us all thinking about caucus management. I think that Stephen Guilbeault would actually agree that this is very important. I hear that the NDP actually rejected having Guilbeault join their caucus. What an ego blow. Come on, Don. Is Don Davies here tonight? Don, come on, man. Beggars can't be choosers. And surely Stephen Guilbeault's brand of crazy would fit in right between the delegation of furries and the Queers for Palestine. I see that
Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I should let that go.
Elizabeth,
That one,
I see that
that one got an applause, which was very fascinating. That was very risky on so many levels. But he hit jokes like this, talked about how, people say I should be more warm, be more relatable, be more friendly. So I talked to a poll. We had a poll and tried to figure out, what do I need to be more relatable? I could either get a dog, or I could try to connect emotionally with voters and get to know them on their level. So I called the pollster immediately and said, well, what kind of dog do I need? And that is kind of where this all goes, is you got to joke about yourself while you dish it out to others. And this was not just a one-off. We saw him do this in the House of Commons on one or two occasions now. Seems like the message has been received, and they are getting it now and pushing it themselves. You have to make fun of yourself, accept your flaws, know what you're about, laugh at them, then expose everything the opponent's hiding, because they are not ready for that type of transparency. That's how you beat this system. This was documented by reporter Glenn McGregor. He says, Carney has listened to Poilievre's press gallery speech with little effect reaction. And this was the facial reaction that apparently Carney gave most of the stand-up. Not impressed. And do you know what vibes this gave me? It's really brought me back to my youth. And it brought me back to this scene, is what this reminded me of.
Here, tell these people something they don't know about me.
That face right there, that was Mark Carney's face during Pierre Poilievre's address. Can't say much about it. Can't do much about it. I'm just going to have to sit here and just be stone-faced. Poilievre made fun of himself. He made fun of others. Made fun of Carney. Made fun of the establishment. Made fun of everybody. Everyone got some that night, including himself, obviously. That's how you beat this. You have to be lighthearted, make fun of yourself, then go after everything they're trying to hide and expose it to the world. And that's what's happening. You have the Abacus data poll that came out post-budget announcement. See how people are feeling about it. And it's the same type of story right now. Donald Trump has moved to 5th place in things people actually care about. Cost of living being a huge, again, the major issue. Then the economy, then healthcare. The housing affordability and accessibility, and then Donald Trump. That's what people care about. Yeah, Mark Carney got a bit of a boost in approval. Pierre Poilievre also got a bit of a boost in approval as well. So what ended up happening is right now we're seeing Poilievre slowly chip away. And it's this strategy that's going to help him feel relatable to more people, is keep going hard, do what you got to do, but don't take yourself too seriously, and keep laughing at yourself through the process. It doesn't have to be every day, but just sprinkle here and there where the moment really shines. Because even through all the questions they asked and people's perspectives on it, the vote share virtually remains unchanged. 41% for Liberal, 40% for the Conservatives. A slight swap from November 6th. They're in a dead heat still, considering everything that's going on right now. But out of all the issues people care about, Conservatives own four of the 7. And the top issues people care about, the top 3 issues people care about, Conservatives own 2 of those 3. So the piece I thought was most interesting was Charest Teest modeled this Abacus data poll out, and it puts Liberals at 153 seats and the Conservatives at 153 seats. Liberals have dropped negative 16 seats based on this polling data, and the Conservatives have risen +9. And the MOU fallout was not included in this poll. So we'll see what happens a month out. As I said, everyone hates it. See where that goes. And it obviously doesn't take into account Poilievre's performance at the press gallery dinner, which even his detractors, again, that room standing over him, that room are full of people that do not like him, do not like the Conservative Party, laughed and applauded with him. Big things are happening. It's very interesting to watch it all go down. And we'll see what transpires over the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And I'll leave it at this. There's a video that's floating around right now talking about Mark Carney and our CPP. It's on my radar. I'm looking into it pretty in depth at this point because I want to get to know the ins and the outs of it before I really come to an opinion on it. I do think it's very important because I have said, and I've talked about it before, Carney has been eyeing our CPP. However, to get his direct hands on it takes a lot of complexity. But from what I'm seeing, people are throwing around the theory that there's a more roundabout way he's going to try and make this happen. And that's what I'm looking into. And before I have a comment on it, I want to look into it myself to make sure I inform you the best I can. But anyways, enjoy your day. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.